What is up, guys? Frankie Dingleberry here. Today we are going to be looking at a GPU, and the GPU that we're going to be looking at is the one that's in the thumbnail, so I'll throw a picture of it up right now. And this is actually an Nvidia Geforce 9500 GS. Now, as you can see, there's something wrong with the fan. I'll actually get to that in a minute, but first let's talk about the specs. So this is a GPU that was released in 2008, and it was built on the 65nm process, and it's technically a cut-down version of the 9500 GT, but this one, being the GS variant, is usually the GPU that you would find in very entry-level pre-built PCs. As for specs, this GPU has 32 stream processors, a 550 MHz core clock, 512 MB of DDR2 on a 128-bit bus, and only supports DirectX 10 and below. And so, like I said, since this GPU was released in 2008, it unfortunately only supports DirectX 10, meaning the games we are going to test are generally older titles and some games that are, like, I guess, a bit more modern, like Rocket League, but we're going to run them at a very low setting. Now, as for that fan, so the fan actually had a bit of a wobble. I don't really know how to explain it, but as it would spin, it would basically hit the heatsink. So what I did was I removed the fan, and then I put a guitar pick in between and then hot glued it, so it gave it a bit more height. And unfortunately, the plastic posts that it was attached to, they snapped, so I had to actually put it on the heatsink itself. And unfortunately, the glue ended up getting warm while I was just downloading drivers and stuff like that, and so the glue ended up disconnecting and the fan just kind of fell off of the heatsink and just kind of started dangling there and spinning around like crazy. So I ended up coming up with a different solution, and I'll put a video of it right now on screen. So what I did was I took an 80mm fan from an old heatsink and I just kind of jerry-rigged it onto the PCB by tying it around the aluminum heatsink's mounting screws, and I just kind of let it dangle there in front. And surprisingly, it worked really well because I was getting load temperatures of about 54°C, and I really don't know how well this card performs on its thermals normally, so I don't really have a frame of reference, but I mean, my RX 480 likes to get up to like 72°C, so 54°C was really awesome. But anyways, as to where I got this GPU, some of you guys may know that from earlier people on my channel is that I used to have a Q6700, one of those Intel quad-core CPUs from like 2008, I believe it was, and that CPU was actually in a pre-built with this GPU, and I ended up salvaging the CPU for myself, and the GPU I just kind of never did anything with because I ended up getting a GTX 260 like right afterwards, so I just used that with the Q6700, and then so on. I went on my upgrade path up to my current system that I have today. So this GPU has just been kind of sitting in my closet, and I decided it would be really cool to test it out and make a video of it for the channel. But yeah, otherwise, before we get into the benchmarks, I just want to say thanks because that video that I last posted, which was the R5-1600 versus the FX6300, it did really well, and it's got like 500 views and like 20 likes, which is quite a bit for me. And I ended up getting like 25 new subscribers to the channel, so if you're watching this and you've seen that video before, then welcome to the channel and thanks for subscribing. And yeah, so I really appreciate the feedback that I got from you guys on that video, and I really want to continue doing this, so if you enjoy this content, please leave a like. But without further ado, let's jump into the benchmarks. So there you have it. As you can see, it did pretty poorly with all those games. It seemed to average around like 35 FPS, and even so, it felt so stuttery and not smooth that it was just not a good experience at all. So yeah, as you guys could probably imagine, I wouldn't recommend buying this unless you're just a hardware enthusiast like myself and you just want to collect it. But yeah, otherwise just don't bother with this one, it's not worth it. But I guess if you were going to build like a system that played games from like 2002 or games like GTA 3 or the original Quake or Doom, that would work just fine, but for anything past, you know, that 2008 point, it really struggles. And something a bit funny is the thumbnail, it says, can it run Crysis? And I made the thumbnail before I even started working on the video, and I have Crysis and I downloaded it, but no matter what I did, it just kept crashing. It does not run Crysis, it definitely does not. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed messing around with this GPU. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel for more PC related content. And I'd really love to branch out and do more stuff. But of course PC hardware is quite expensive, so I'll have to look into, I guess, buying stuff off of eBay and ordering it in real cheap. And hopefully we can do stuff with that. But yeah, until next time, peace out, YouTube.